Bueno, muy buenas noches a todos, agradecidos y bienvenidos a una más de nuestras Masterclass de la Corporación Universitaria de Asturias. Mi nombre es Lizeth Marín, yo soy la coordinadora de relacionamiento con el sector externo y estoy muy contenta de poder acompañarlos el día de hoy. Hoy tenemos una charla súper especial con el tema dominando la gestión del tiempo, herramientas y técnicas para las personas, pero esta masterclass en especial se va a impartir en inglés con un súper invitado y nuestro docente que nos acompaña el día de hoy, Richard Gustavo Ardila Franco, que es docente de la Corporación Universitaria de Asturias. Como sé que hay mucho tema por hablar, profe, estamos aquí, te doy la bienvenida y te dejo aquí en la sala para que hagas tu presentación.
Ah, Muchas gracias. Bueno, vamos a empezar. Buenas tardes para todos. So time management, tools and techniques for highly productive people. That's the subject we're going to try to talk about today because it's a really broad subject, but I'm going to try to make it interesting for everyone and especially useful. So my name is Richard Gustavo Ardila Franco. I have a bachelor in business administration and a master in business administration as well from the National University of Colombia. I have a master in international business and economy from Schmalkalden Applied Science University in Germany. That's why maybe for some of us, my accent is a little weird because I've been educated in Germany, so I have some accent. And currently, I'm making a PhD in business administration in the National University of Colombia. I'm a professor here since this year. I'm very happy to be here sharing with you guys some of the experiences that I have learned, especially in Germany and sometimes in the States, in the United States, about efficiency and especially personal productivity. But of course, because I'm a researcher as well as a professor, there are a lot of subjects that are covered by books and by articles and by some research about it. So the agenda is divided in three sections. The first one is why are good time management skills important? We are going to talk about goals. Goals, as we are going to see, is the most important thing in time management and for some people in life. Then we are going to discuss some issues about priorities, concentration, and in the second section, we are going to talk about deadlines and rewards, meetings, key result areas. And in the third section, we are going to talk about balance, which is really important, some tools that I'm going to mention briefly, and finally, we are going to make some reflection and questions, if possible, from you. So, sorry, I'm going to admit Cynthia. Welcome, Cynthia. So what is time management? Here I have some image from a Pink Floyd song that I'm pretty sure most of you know. If not, I really recommend it. I put a little, well, I did not put it. I found it in internet, but this is a little part of the song, of the lyrics, which is really interesting. I'm going to read it. And then one day you find 10 years have got behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. This is a really profound, deep form to analyze how time is running out for everyone. So what is time management? Time management refers to how you schedule and organize your time for different activities. Good time management leads to personal productivity and success in all areas of your life. Why this is the subject that one of the subjects that I found really interesting to talk in tonight, is because time is life. If we don't manage the time that we have correctly, that will happen. What Pink Floyd in this song is talking about. So my objective, my goal tonight is that you people take some clues, take some tips, take some ideas, and especially make some reflection about how important is the time and are we using it correctly, especially in terms of our beloved ones. So why these skills are important? Well, as I said, time is, for most of the people who studied, is the most precious resource for one specific reason. Time never comes back. We can use money, we can waste money and other kinds of resources, but time is the only one that will never come back. It is perishable. So, because it cannot be saved, we have to use some skills to make the most of it. So, time is the core skill, time management is the core skill upon which everything else in life depends. So, as I was saying at the beginning, I took a lot of the different ideas to make this presentation from my personal experiences, but as well from the research, the books, some articles as well. So I wanted to put much of it, and maybe I forgot a couple, like maybe Tim Ferriss, or there is another one that I mentioned later, really important as well. But I really recommend these sources for the people who want to deep much profound in this subject. Brian Tracy, with his he has different let's say books and analysis of different subjects, but time management, his book and his audios and all of his career, he has been one of the most famous people in United States who studied the personal productivity. So a lot of ideas come from him. I'm pretty sure you have heard as well of Stephen Covey. He wrote this famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And some ideas I bring it from this book as well. Peter Drucker, for the people who study management, or the professors that I'm pretty sure that join us today. In business, he's extremely famous. He's a very big author. And Drucker wrote the Effective Executive. That is a really relevant work as well. And more currently, there are some authors, some young, let's say young, like my age people, who wrote some really interesting stuff. One of them is Scott Young. Here, I put it in the image, long-term productivity. He has a very famous blog about personal productivity as well, and especially for students. And Cal Newport, here at the right, who wrote Did Work, and another really, well, several different important books. I really recommend to everyone. This author is really, really interesting. I really like his contributions. We are going to talk about deep work later. And finally, Johann Hari, he wrote this book called Stolen Focus and explains some issues of the current life related to why it's so difficult to concentrate for us, and especially for young people. We're going to talk about it later. So the first step that we have to take into account to analyze the time management skills is that the most important thing is goals. Goals, for a lot of people who studied, is the key. It's not even the key, is success. Some people say that every success in life is depending on your goal. Of course, different people has different goals, but at the end, everything is that. And even some biologists realize that we human beings need goals in order to survive. So it's really, really important to have goals. I'm pretty sure if I ask everybody here, if you have goals, everybody will say yes. But we have to make some distinctions. we have to realize that not every wish that we have in our mind is a goal. A goal has some specific characteristics that I put this in this image. We can see goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and it has to have this timely component. We're going to talk later about deadlines, but it's important that we have into account that we realize that every goal that we have should have this specific smart, people call it, form, because if not, it could be merely a wish. And also, really important, it should be written. It should be written, especially by paper. I know that some people have it as goals in Word or in Excel or any other computer program, but researchers have discovered that it's better to have it on paper. And this statistic shows top 3% of the most success people in every field have goals. That's a fact. So we have to take it into account. And what are the most important goals? I put here 3 of the considered most important goals in general. Some people would think different, but this is a strong recommendation. We have to have personal and family goals. Why? Because people is the most important thing in life. That's it. Second, we should have goals in business and in career, because we need to have this feeling of development. And finally, we should have self-development goals. We should have goals related to our health, to our growth, to the books we read, to the places we go, to the people we share with our body shape, and so on. So this is the recommendation. We should have goals in every field. Why I'm putting this here? Because normally people have goals only related to the most urgent things that they have at the moment. And sometimes we forget how important it is to have personal and self-development goals and focus only on the career. So because of that, I prepared this little exercise that is taken from one of Brian Tracy's books. And I would like that everybody make it with me. This is a really personal exercise, and it will be quick. I actually have to take the time in order to make it correctly. So I invite everyone to answer some simple questions. The idea is that you take a little paper, well, maybe bigger than this, hopefully, and I'm going to ask 7 questions. And the idea is that you write quickly the answer of it. And I will give between 1 minute and 30 seconds for each. And after that, we are going to make a reflection about it. So the first one is, you have 1 minute for this. What are your five basic values in life? Once we have these 5, the idea is that we arrange them by priority. So for that, I insist, this is a personal exercise, but I strongly recommend everybody to do it. You will see soon why. I recommend that everybody does it. So you have 1 minute from now, please. Okay, time. So for the next question, we have only 30 seconds. So write down your 3 most important goals in life. Now. time. For the third one, how would you pass your time if you found that you have only 6 months left to live? What would you do? With who? Remember, if you forget to write it, you will not be able to do it. So 1 minute. What would you do if you realize that, like in Breaking Bad, like you have only 6 months to live? What would you do? This exercise is really important because at the end, when we make the final reflection, we're going to come back to this. Okay, next one. 1 minute as well. If you won $1 million, what would you do differently? What would you do? Would you be in the same job? Would you live in the same place? Would you keep your partner, your friends? What would you do if you suddenly get $1 million? Next one, only 13 seconds. 30 seconds. What have you always wanted to do, but been afraid to try it? 30 seconds. Next one. What kind of activities give you the greatest sense of importance, pleasure, joy, when you have felt happiest? 30 seconds. What were you doing? With who? This question especially is important for one thing we are going to talk about later, when we talk about concentration. And the last one, if you could get a magic pill, and if you could achieve with this pill, taking it, whatever you wanted in the world, what big thing would you dream of? If you knew you couldn't fail, if you take this pill and you could achieve whatever you want, what would you do? This is the last question. So I hope that everybody could make this little exercise because the results are really interesting. When we analyze the questions one by one, we realize that the first one, the one that talks about values, shows that what we believe in, what's the most important for us. And this is a key point in order to create some goals. The second one, what are the three most important goals of your life? I gave you only 30 seconds. And of course, this is your subconscious mind talking. So pretty probably the three goals that you have written, are the things that you have urgency in your life right now. But take this reflection. If you have 30 minutes to do it, it would be different. So the third one, if you have only 6 months to live, that shows what you really, really care in life. What are you really, really real value? So is your current life consistent with this? Yeah, very interesting example is Breaking Bad. So the fourth one, if you became millionaire, if you get total freedom of choice, would you make the same? This shows what you actually really want to do. So this shows some coherence. The fifth one, what are you afraid to try? This is interesting because this is a belief that is limiting your full capacity. So you should consider about it. The sixth one, the greatest sense of importance, the zone of excellence, the element, C. Robinson in his book will call it. We are going to come back about this subject, but it's really important that you know this because it's the only way to get different levels of concentration, the flow state, as some would call. And the last one, what would you dare to dream if you knew that you could achieve it? This is a really interesting reflection that everybody should do, because sometimes, as I said before, there are some limitations in our mind that doesn't allow us to create it. But when we have a real purpose, we can make it. So all of these ideas is in order to realize if your goals, if your current goals, because as I imagine everybody has goals, I don't know if written, but are these goals and the results of this exercise coherent? So the second point is priorities. What is priority? The capacity of differentiate what is relevant and what not. So we have to take into account that action without planning is the cause of every failure. Some people say that 1 minute in planning saves 5 minutes in execution. So the idea is that once you have your goals, you should write all the steps you have to make in order to get to these goals, and then organize it by priority. That's the idea of making a plan of action, making a list. And I really recommend a list. We are going to see different ways to make it right now, but I really recommend by paper. Think on paper, they say. Why? Because when you have some list, you have a feeling of direction. You know where you're going. You take your list. Well, this is not my list. I just use it for the last exercise. But when you have a list, you know what you should be doing. And at the same time, I prefer it in paper because we can delete or we can mark the little task that we are making it through the day. So this creates a feeling of accomplishment. And take this really important rule. Wilfredo Pareto, as I guess everybody knows, created the 80-20 rule, which is a principle that asserts that 80% of outcomes result from only 20% of the causes. Therefore, we should take into account this rule when we are making our list in order to work on it and prioritize which is the 20% that really counts, the 20% that we should make first, or maybe at all. So it's really important that you take this into account. And my last recommendation is to have a system. There are different systems. Some people have, depending on the activities they make, depending on the styles, but I'm going to show some in order for you to have some ideas and then to get your own systems. This one is the Eisenhower matrix, and it shows the difference between the urgent, the not urgent, and the important and the not important. So, sorry to admit. So the important here is we should differentiate what is important and what not. We should differentiate what is urgent and what not. And of course, some stuff is urgent and important, so we have to do it immediately. But we should not forget that there are some stuff that is really important, but is not urgent. And here are some examples that people tend to forget: personal improvement, relationships building, and so on. And this is the reason why a lot of people don't get what they want. It's because they live only in the part of urgent and sometimes not important. So we have to realize that the important should be done. And that's why this little matrix shows that if it's not important, you should delegate it or not making it, just delete it. Some people as well use a different ABCD system, which is really simple. If you, when you're making your list, if it's an A, if you have to do it, you do it. If it's a B, you plan it. If not, you're delegate it or ignore. It's quite of the same logic, but the matrix should work for most of you. Some people use the traditional agenda and they write everything, and that's all right. If it works, it's all right as well. In my case, some people also use to-do list in apps or in different kinds of platforms, and it works. If it works, it works. The idea is that you get the system that is most useful for you, depending on your activities, depending on your age, on your style. For younger people, of course, using the cell phone is quite the norm. But for people like me, I really prefer it on paper. Some people use the Google Calendar. Well, this is a really crowded example, but yeah, some people use it. I particularly like this kind of printed calendar, and I think it works perfectly. Because, as I said before, when you mark on it, you feel this achievement of completion. This one is took from the book of Stephen Covey, for the ones that are interested. And I like it. The difference is that in a normal calendar, like in Google Calendar, you just have the activities and you create them in a normal calendar. But here you have as well a part in which you can put the roles that you have, let's say as a father, as a brother, as a couple, as a worker, as an entrepreneur, whatever. And you have different goals for any of these roles. And as well, you can put up of the calendar your priorities. So I really like that because it makes me focus. I think it really works. Some people, this one is took from Cal Newport, one of the books that he wrote. And it's really simple, but it's really efficient as well. He just put chunks of time. If you realize it's not that much, just what he considers he can do. And on the other part of the paper, he just writes the things that he has to remember. This is really important because everybody needs a system to collect information, to organize it, and to make it later. This is a mistake that a lot of people make, and is that you tell me something, I agree with a commitment with you, and I never write it, so I forget. This tends to happen to lots of people, and it's really important that we collect this information, because if not, we are not going to be efficient at all. That's why some stuff pass from being important to be urgent, because we forget. So I strongly recommend that you use a system. This is really simple. You just write at the right side, this is what I have to do, this is what I have to schedule later. If you don't want to make it by paper, I personally use WhatsApp. How? And a lot of people do this. They just create a group with themselves and they write it. And it's really quick because some information comes, some compromise I got, so I write it. I have actually different groups with myself, appointments, today, task, and so on. I find it really useful. And then after you write it, you collect it, because the routine of everyone's life is really fast. So once you collect all the information, you never forget it, because after, maybe at the end of the day, or the beginning of the day, depending on your schedule, you will put it in your calendar or someplace and you will not forget it. So this is really important. The next step is concentration. For this, we are going to make a little exercise. Well, we are not going to make it because the time, but I will give this reflection for you, for everybody. Just check in your cell phone how much time you spent on it. If you make it, the first one is for Android, and the second one is for iPhone. You just need to go through these steps, and then you will see how much time you are spending in your cell phone and in what. I'm pretty sure most of you will get WhatsApp or maybe other apps, and you will realize how much time you are passing in front of a screen. And this is really useful information. Why? Because we live in a moment of humanity in which concentration is not common. It's even a competitive advantage. What is concentration? The capacity of start a task and finish it. That's it. People is suffering by procrastination, by multitasking, by diversion. People is not getting focused. So if you develop the capacity of getting focused on what you have to do and do it, and create this sense of urgency that I'm going to talk about, you will be 1 in a million. Well, I'm exaggerating, but you will be different than the others. And I can say by experience that people notice that. That's why you get promotions and other work offers, for example. So you have to realize also that procrastination, there are good and bad kind of procrastination. Not every procrastination is bad. If we get the habit to procrastinate the things that doesn't put value on our life, then it's good to have procrastination. And we have also to realize that the reasons of procrastination are these that I put here, but especially the fear and anxiety that comes from this feeling that we think that a goal is too large to be achieved by us, especially when we have a lack of beliefs in our all skills. So that's why I put this little example here. It's easier when we say we have to plan a birthday party. That's huge. But when we put it in little tasks and we write it and we go one by one, it's much easier to get. So multitasking directly, I would say, according to the studies, that doesn't exist. That's not a good idea. We should focus on one time at a time. And sense of urgency, get the job done fast. This capacity, this mindset is really useful for professional life. I hope that this is one of the key points of this presentation, that everybody gets it. Alternation, flow state, deep work. Why I put this image? Because we are losing our concentration using the apps. That's why it's so important, the first exercise about looking how much time we spend on the phone. Alternation is the issue that we have to live in these current times, in which we have this constant need of checking WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever, and we just can't control it sometimes. It's not our fault. It's part of the business of the technological companies, but we have to be aware of it. We should get to the flow state. Flow state is when you are working and you feel that time is passing really, really fast. How I spent talking, for example, 36 minutes, and I still have a lot to cover. This is the flow, when you are really into some subject and you don't realize how time is getting so fast. Deep work. This deep work is the capacity of be focused on one task at the time, but really, really into it. So it's really direct, the relation with these two subjects. WhatsApp, emails, calls. I know that we live in an urgent state all the time. I know that sometimes if we don't get a call or if we don't answer a WhatsApp to someone, They will ask why you never answer, why you leave me in blue or whatever. But we should be organized on it. Some people check the email all the time with this anxiety. I recommend that we should check it maybe every 3 hours. Some people recommended that we should check it at the beginning of the work, before lunch, and so on. But not all the time, not all the time. And finally, we should learn how to say no, because not every meeting, not every interaction creates value. So the next part is deadlines. Clearly, we should set deadlines, because if we don't put deadlines, we are going to work, we are going to enter into the Parkinson's law, and we are going to take a subject that should take 2 hours, and if we have 6, we are going to spend it. So having deadlines is really good in order to achieve projects. One way, well, I recommend this book, Atomic Habits, from James Clear, in order to understand this much deeper. But one way to get good deadlines and to be good at it is to tell other people, promise, I'm going to send that project by Monday, 3 p.m. I'm going to do this, and so on. Because the studies shows that it's really harder to fail on other people than judge to ourselves. Meetings, this is important. This is a key point for a lot of jobs that people have in their normal lives. So we should be aware that meetings consume a lot of time of people, and sometimes we don't really actually need a meeting. So this is the first question that we should ask. Second, is people being efficient answering emails? Because sometimes people create meetings, because other people is not answering, because the communication channels are not good. And that's a shame. That's a shame, because people should be organized with their emails. Some meetings should not be done at all. So we should create better communication channels in order to avoid some meetings. But when you actually have to make a meeting, be sure that when you schedule it, everybody receives the agenda, everybody has clear what's the purpose of the meeting, and the material that they have to read, if so, or to prepare for the meeting. This is important. For example, when you have a meeting with your boss, it's really recommendable that you take some notes, some organized notes, like 1, 2, 3, this is the subjects I want to discuss with my boss. This will be really appreciated by your boss, because it shows that you are taking care of his time, of her time, whatever. So next point is start and finish on time. This is really important. Don't wait for people who is late. Just start the meetings, and they will stop arriving late. Create, as I said, a list of key points, and be concrete. Be concrete. Go to the point. Key result areas. What is this? We should know what results are expected from us. What are the core functions? Why people in the enterprise in which we are working, why they pay us? This is really important. And maybe you will be surprised, but sometimes people don't have clarity on that. That's why some people waste a lot of time making the things that are not really creating value for the organization. So it's important to have clear channels of communication. Finally, we should have balance. What is the purpose of these time management skills? Is to improve the quality of our lives, is to have better health, peace of mind, and better relationships. How? Spending more time with our loved ones. Because some people think that having a really specific system to manage your time is like tight, it's like close-minded. But not actually. When you're really organized on this, you have more time to share with your family. You have more time to go and check your health, to make exercise, and so on. So spend time with your family and friends. I put this here in order to create a reflection for everyone. How much time you spend with your kids? What are your values and priorities from the first exercise that we make at the beginning of this little talk? And finally, I want to show some tools. Well, I'm pretty sure you can check out this presentation later. So I'm just putting it like this. It's really interesting. We should, especially now with the artificial intelligence, we should take some technology to make our life more organized. And I put all as well some research tools here that could be useful, because I know a lot of people here are professors, and I'm pretty sure, like myself, a lot of them are making a PhD. So these specific tools could be really useful. And that's it. The conclusions, quick. Most important thing, goals. After we have goals, we should write them down. Don't forget, don't have it in your mind and that's it, write them down. After that, organize plans. How we make these plans? Making priorities of all the activities that should be completed to achieve this goal. Always, after this setting of priorities, concentrate in the most valuable use of your time. Always think, this is a better use of my time. Are we taking this coffee longer than it should? Think always about your time. And in really important projects, in projects that we need concentration, stay there until it's finished. Depending on how you organize it, but try to really focus, to not allow the cell phone to interrupt, and people and calls and so on. Stay there until it's finished. And develop a sense of urgency. That's the final keystone of this presentation. Get the reputation that if someone asks you to do something, you make it good, you make it fast, you make it with quality. That's it. So right now, I would like, if anyone has questions, welcome. I hope I was not talking really fast at the end, because at the beginning I was like talking too slow. So I wanted to cover all the subjects before 6:45 p.m. So if no one has questions, then I really appreciate your time and hope to see you another time. "27," someone said. Oh yeah, sure. You can take a picture of this, or maybe in another occasion, and hopefully in Spanish, because these subjects are more complicated. We can talk about this. Just wanted to share this for the people that is making the PhD, and I know it's really difficult. So okay, I see there is no more questions. So thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. I'm sorry to be so fast at the end, but I wanted to cover all the subjects, and hope to see you soon.
In the chat, the question.
Oh, this is a good question. How we can develop a better sense of urgency? Simple. Having higher goals. If our goals are really simple, really easy to get, we are going to relax. Let's remember the rule that I showed you here. The Parkinson one. If we have too much time, we're going to waste it. But if we have really demanding goals, we have to make everything. The best way to realize this sense of urgency is to realize that we're going to die, that the time is limited. So we have to make the best that we can for our lives, for our loved ones. We have to be efficient in all the subjects of life. That's what I would say. These tools are free. Yeah, some of them, most of them that I show are free. Some of them you have to pay. depending on the characteristics you want to unlock. Thanks to you, Frank, sorry, Alejandro.
When you talk about the priorities, how much is the important?
It's really important. Why? Because if we don't organize our priorities, for example, here, we are going to be making a lot of stuff that sometimes doesn't need to be done. Like we are going to be in this quadrant. It's not important, you know? If we don't organize the priorities, we are going to be taking coffee or watching Netflix or making stuff that doesn't actually put value on our lives, you know? So we are
Depends
going to...
on the time this.
Sorry?
Depend of the time?
Sorry?
Depend of the time this the priority?
Yeah, depends on your goals. Depends on your goals, on what you want to achieve. For example, if you are making a PhD or if you have kids, watching Netflix is losing your time unless you're watching with them, you know? It's better to make something important, like talking with them, like playing with them, than not just making low value activities. So it's really important, it's fundamental. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Thanks to you. Okay, I think that's it. Well,
Okay, thanks, teacher. Finish question.
The last question. And the material is you send the mail or no?
for the presentation, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Liz will share it with everybody. I will send it to her and I hope it will be shared. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm sorry to be so fast, but there is a lot of things that we could talk about this, and I tried to put it only in 1 hour, but I hope the reflection would achieve everyone.
For me, it's very interesting.
Cool. Nice to do that. Okay, thank you very much to everyone.
Thanks, teacher. Ok, finalizamos entonces con nuestra masterclass súper interesante el día de hoy. No sé si les puedas traducir que van a obtener su certificado de asistencia en las próximas semanas, teacher, por favor. Please.
Sure, we are going to get your certificates in coming weeks, and it will get to your emails, I hope.
Ok, listo, teacher. Muchas gracias. Feliz noches a todos. Bye.
Muchas gracias. Bye.
Hasta luego, bye, gracias.
Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.
Bye.